Hey YouTube family, how are you guys doing? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to part 2. So in part 1, I took this little West Creek Telly and we trained it, right? We followed the train process. Now that is great for setting up a guitar, but train will not fix any issues. High frets, unlevel neck pocket, bad tuners, poorly cut nut. But it will identify some of those things. No major issues with this guitar. So there's a few things that I want to address. For one, the fretboard is very dry. So I want to condition that fretboard. These strings are the original strings. So these strings are going. I want to polish up the frets, which is something I would do on every guitar when I change the strings anyway. And I want to check the neck pocket to make sure it's perfectly level and we have, wood-to-wood contact. And I want to make sure that these screws at the back are not threading into the body, only into the neck. So we're going to check that. And the last thing I want to address is, now that we lowered these saddles by 2 full turns in the first video to get the action nice and low, and I want to make sure that these screws are not poking into my hand as they are right now. So the only way to fix that is to either install shorter screws, which I have here, or install a shim in the neck so the neck would come up this way, right? So we could angle the neck a little more, which would require me to have to raise these saddles, which in turn would drive these little screw heads down. So we'll have a look. But it plays, fantastic just as is. So I don't know if I want to install a shim in there. It does look like the neck is dropping a bit inside the pocket. If you just look at that line, I think you can see that the neck is slightly, tilted forward in the pocket. So I might install a little shim to at least straighten it out just a bit. So you can see that from that angle. The neck is kind of this way, right? So let's get started. Well, the first thing we're going to do is take these strings off. And I use a drill for that. It just makes things so much faster. Go. All right, you don't have to watch that. Got the strings off, and so now I just noticed one thing that could cause problems in the future. Look at this. The nut's not even glued in there. Look at that, right? It was just sitting there, so the string tension is the only thing holding this nut in place. We will definitely re-glue this nut in later. All right, I'm just going to get rid of these strings, getting ready to push these strings through. Last time when I did a video on this exact same guitar, well, not this guitar, but a guitar just like it, when I pushed the strings out, some of these ferrules in the back, these string through ferrules, they came out. So let's see what happens with this one when I push these strings through. Oh, look, they're coming out. I got 2 out. 2 of them are out. Let me slide this back in there. This one back. This one back. So again, now that's not a performance issue. That would not matter once your strings are in place. Those are not moving. But for me, I'm just going to glue them in. If you'll notice, these ferrule holes, they're kind of stepped, right? They're the lip of the ferrule sits inside here, right? Because they're kind of flush to the body. So I just put a little bit of glue right on that lip and then put the ferrule in, and that's it. So I use this thin number 10 super glue I got from Stumac. They had a special on, so I bought a whole bunch of these, and they come with these little whisk tips. So super easy to control the flow and the amount. So basically, I just rest the little whisk tip on the edge here, and you'll see the glue come out because the wood will change color as it gets wet. And then I just drop it in. And that's it. Let's sit for a second. And that's it. Well, let's take this neck off right now. I like to break it with a handheld screwdriver. Don't like using power tools to break the screw. Now I'll use one. My trusty little magnetic tray here. I think what they do for guitars that don't have a hole in the middle here, one of these is their indexing hole, with the CNC machine. So usually one hole is bigger. And this one is that hole for this guitar. So it goes in there, no problem. I can see they have washers in here. So we'll see how many washers are under these bushings. And that was an issue that was with the first guitar I got like this as well. They just, cut these holes too deep. So they build them up. That's all. So this one has 3 washers in there, right, to build it up. So I'm using just a little pick tool like this, and it works great to get in there. They're not glued in, they were just tight, that's all. So this second one had 3 washers in it as well. This one that I just pulled out has 3 washers in it as well. There we go, you just got to be patient. Here's this one, and this one has 3 washers in it as well. All right, let's see how solid this neck pocket is. The neck just slides out, so it's not really tight in there at all. It's nice though, right? No major burrs, no major dust, and lots of adjustability. So that's not terrible, I guess. I would like to see a tighter neck pocket, however. Well, look at that. There's a nice neck pocket. So it's pretty much wood-to-wood contact. Pretty smooth all the way through. There's like a splinter right here on the end. So we get rid of that for sure. I will sand that down. It feels like a little lump around that back hole right here. So, since the neck is off, we'll just clean that up. Make it nice and smooth. Let's check out that input jack right quick. Because last time, if I remember correctly, it wasn't really seating properly on the jack. Let's check. Quick, pull that out. And this is not something you have to do. This is just something I'm kind of doing, just for my own curiosity's sake. Solder joints are excellent on this. Here's my 12mm socket here. And I'm just going to make sure that that is nice and snug. Oh yeah, that's excellent. Anyway, this guitar seems to have been assembled correctly. Like it's nice and tight. So what I want to check with this this tab is some of these jacks, when you click the cord in, the tab is just a little bit too tall and it doesn't really sit in the indent here. So let's see if that's the case for this one. Yeah. So hopefully you can see this. So when I push this tab in, look, there's some good resistance there. Like it's a good jack. But if you notice, hopefully you can see that. But there's a gap where the indent of the jack is, and where that little protrusion on the tab is, it's not sitting directly into the indent. It's just sitting on the bottom top edge, I guess, of this jack, right? So when I put it in like that, it doesn't really click. So all you got to do is just bend that tab. So I'm going to take a pair of needle nose pliers. I'm going to put a kink in this tab right here. Just like so. Right? So I just bent that tab a little bit. I put a little kink in it. I'm going to bend it a little bit more. And then pull it back at the base. Now, when I slide this in, watch this. Look at that. See that? See how it jams that tip right in there? So just by adding a small kink in this tab, it really catches the jack well. I just put that jack back in there. So last thing we're going to do with this body before we address this pocket is I just like to check the pickups. I want to see if they're loose, and these are not. They're nice and tight. They're not moving around, and I want to make sure that these adjustment screws move freely, and they do. Sometimes these pickups might be rubbing inside, and then you'd want to take everything apart and check. But in this case, not the case. So, and we know they work. Yeah, this is great. I can see movement as soon as I start to turn. And another thing I do is I just check, make sure all the pickguard screws are tight. A friend of mine actually wants to buy this guitar. So I told him, well, I'm going to do a little YouTube video and then I'll give you a good deal on it. Gonna check these bridge screws. Kind of separate these two here. These are all good. All right, so this is a 5-screw bridge, 3 at the bottom and 2 at the top. No issues here. I'll check these switch screws. No problem. So again, this guitar was nicely assembled at the factory. And see what size we need. So the hole where the screw goes into easily is about this size of bit. So I don't really pay attention to the bit size because every guitar manufacturer has different screw sizes. That screw, I superimpose this bit on it, and you can't really see any thread. It's just a little bigger than the screw. So, right? See that? You can see the bit kind of in behind it, just a little bit bigger than the screw. That's all you need, right? That's all you need. You don't have to go like super big on these screw holes. So I'm going to do that. We'll go in the other room for that. All right, let's do this. Here we go. We'll check. There we go. Perfect. To sand down this pocket, to get rid of any burrs, this is an old Guitar Works leveling beam that I bought. It's super cheap. It's really light aluminum. I replaced all my guitar working tools with like Music Nomad stuff. I just really, really like their stuff. But this is good for, like a sanding block. So all I do is I stand, behind the guitar, obviously. And this is like 220 grit. And I make sure it's nice and flat. And, there's no sanding paper on this side. So that can go rub up and down against the pocket. And when I get to this end, I don't want to jam the end of this, and crack the paint. So kind of weird, but what I do is I just take the tip of my nail and I put it right on top of the lip here. So like that. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing there, but I put it right on top of the lip. And then when this thing will deflect off of my nail inside the cavity. and it works really well. I don't have to worry about hitting the edge of the guitar here. On this side, there's no worry because the edge of the tool will follow the inner edge of the pocket, so it's never a problem. So yeah, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of cleanup in here. So that's just deflecting right off my nail. All right, that's her. Let's go get that neck. First thing, if you run your fingers over these holes, you'll feel that they're elevated. There's like burrs on the top of them. So I just got this little file from Temu a while back, and I just use that. Just set it flat and a couple of passes, and it just takes those right off. And it doesn't even leave any scuff marks on the back of your neck. And you're not going to see those anyway. So yeah, I just let the file do the work. It's kind of a heavy file, you know. And that's it. All right, so this is my Music Nomad notched ruler. Put that on this. I'm going to check to see how much this has to move. So I'm just going to add some relief. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You have no rocking whatsoever. All right, so that should be good. Let's check fret level. Oh, got a little clackety clack there. So fret 13, it's a little bit high right across. You guys could probably not even hear that on the camera mic. Right there. So it's not even that high on the end. It's in the middle. Another one right on the end. Okay, this one's high right across. And I guess I'm not going to worry about these two last ones. So there's like 4 spots on this. That's kind of, and as you saw in the previous video, it didn't really matter. Wasn't a big deal, but we'll kind of dial those in. That's what I do with my own guitars. So if there was any inconsistent frets, I would address them. But first, we're going to tap them in there. So I want to make sure that these are high and not just because they're not seated. All right, let's check that fret again. All right, it's still clacking exactly the same spot, so that's just a high fret. We'll tap this one a little bit. All the way across. And we'll give it a check. Solid. Yep. This one's still clacking. from the middle to the base side. So we're good there, like that. This one's right on the heel, so that'll support itself. Oh, look at that. Clacking is gone on this one. Totally gone. So this one just needed to be seated properly. That's good. There. No more clacking. All right, how about this? This one is a little tall. Here it gets a little problematic because the hammer is a little wider than the space, so you just got to be careful and just slightly tap. Make sure you keep your hammer level, because this one's taller than the other one, so if you keep it level, it should hit that one first. That did not help. It's still high. Yep, all right. So you don't have to watch that. You see, I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the other one, so I'll be right back. There we go. We got a level fretboard, ladies and gentlemen. I have these nice sanding sponges. I get them off Amazon. I start with the 5 to 600 grit. Then I go 8 to 1,000. Then I go 1,200 to 15. Then I go 2,000, and then I lightly pass with the 2,500. And then I use steel wool for the final polishing. Right, so I'm just going to keep going with that, and I'll be back. We're at the 2,500 now. And now we're really polishing these frets. 0,000 steel wool. Very fine. And same thing. 2 frets at a time. And you'll feel, the back and forth movement getting super smooth. It's like a little gritty right at first, and then it smoothens right out. Fretboard cleaner. Conditioning oil. Give the guitar a polish before we begin the reassembly, and we'll be good to go. Reassembly time. I'm going to try to get you to my level here. So I mentioned I want to install a shim in the front of the pocket to maybe help get these saddles up, so I can get rid of these screws without having to change them all. But so here's what I did. I put some tape right along the fretboard edge, and I'm just going to put this in the pocket like so. All right. So there you see, right, it makes contact with the pickguard. So there's no gap over here. You can't see any wood. And then here you can see like a little bit. So how do you measure for a shim? I have no idea. It's pretty much just guesswork, really. So I cut out just a credit card thick shim, very flexible. I'm going to put that just in front of the neck pocket holes, like against the back of the pocket. We'll put this in and see what that looks like. All right. Now, do you see there's a slight amount of wood showing in the front of the pocket? I don't know if you can see that on the video. So there is a slight angle. So that's it. That's all I'm going to use, because a slight angle in the front here will make a big difference at the back of the neck. So we're going to go with that. Got those back in. Use the same shims that were in the hole. And now there's no more gap around the heel. It's nice and tight. And there's a little more height down here at the front of the neck here. So we'll see how that angle plays out. So basically, once the guitar is reassembled, we're going to do the train setup all over again. Okay, just the final action height. I think I got them all where I want them. And these saddles now have just a slight upward angle from where the intonation screw is, and no more screws protruding through the top of the saddle. Perfectly level. All right, let's plug this in. Oops, forgot what key I was in there. Middle. Well, that was fun. That's it, folks. That is the TT20, kind of part 2 of the train system. So I use train to set up a guitar to know if it's good. And if that all pans out, then I do this. I'll do the tear down, kind of the reassembly, and kind of fine tune and tweak everything. And really get a good player. So this is ready for a gig. Awesome. Thanks for following me on this little mini series of, don't return your Amazon guitar until you train it. It was fun. You guys take care. God bless. Just remember, it doesn't matter what the name says on the headstock. If you like it, and if you train it, it's going to be good. Take care, guys.